Caitlin Medcalf, thank you so much for joining me.
No worries. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a worry whatsoever. It's really nice to speak to you. You were referred to me by one of the guests on the first episode, Bisu, who said that you were somebody who's doing some really, really awesome things for the sort of bass and electronic music scene in my hometown of Sydney. So, a scene that I'm really, really passionate about. So, what I'd love to get from you, first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about your sort of musical upbringing, where you started and what sort of got you into music production and kind of electronic music and where you are today?
Yeah, well, I guess my journey with music first started, I think like a lot of kids in Australia, I started playing clarinet in primary school.
Okay.
Yeah. and I did all the grades. I think I got up to like grade 4.
Nice.
And then I did piano as well, and I did singing up until maybe year 7, and then I kind of just gave it all up. And I think I really regret giving all that up because, music theory now I wish I learned a bit more about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I kind of did that, and then when I used to have this neighbor when I was in year 6, and she was 3 years older than me, and she had an older sister who used to work for EMI Music.
Okay.
And I got really into music through her. So her sister would give her all these like old sample CDs of like Gorillaz, the presets, that sort of thing. And when she was done ripping them to her iTunes, she'd give them to me. And I think that's kind of how I got deeper into just music in general, just not listening to like what was on the radio at the time.
Yeah.
And so I guess from there, I was really into bands for quite a while. Up until I was maybe 17, 18, I really wanted to become like a band manager and just work in that kind of circuit. But I think it all changed when I could like get into a club at 18. And that's when I was like, oh, I love electronic music.
Yeah. And what clubs were you going to at that time?
Oh, they were terrible. We're going to like Soho and like Candies and, World Bar and all of that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was really until maybe when I was like 20 where we started going to like, what I'd consider like cool clubs, like Good God Small Club. We went to Starfuckers for a while. That was a good time.
Yep.
That was always a good party. And what else did we go to? We went to World Bar a little bit too. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was 18 around the time when like the lockout laws came in. So we definitely had like a watered down version of what Sydney used to be growing up. But in terms of music production, I was having a think about this the other day, actually. My very first memory of production when I was about 13, I heard Calvin Harris's song, I'm Not Alone. And I was like, I'm going to try and remix it. So I downloaded Audacity.
Yeah.
And I think I played around with that for like a day, and I tried to remix it, and then I just rage quit and didn't pick up anything else until I was like 21, maybe.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, man. Fuck Audacity. I love the concept behind Audacity, and open source, like community driven production piece of software. But every time I sit down and try and use it, I'm like, this isn't pretty to look at. Fuck this program.
No, seriously. And it was like real laggy as well. I think I just jumped on it on the wrong time, but
yeah, for sure.
Could not use that now.
Yeah, no way. So you were around 21 when you decided to pick it up again. Do you know what sparked that interest?
For me, it was a natural progression. So I started DJing when I was 20, and I don't know, I think once I'd made the shift from like bands to electronic music, and I started DJing, and I started earning some like, I don't know, good money from it, and I was earning enough to like pretty much live off for a while.
Really?
But yeah, I was doing a lot of pub gigs, like lots of pub gigs every weekend.
Okay.
But I don't know, it just kind of felt like the natural progression of things to me, like I decided that I actually really want to make a career out of this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, in my head, I was just like, well, DJing will only get you so far. I think like producing music is like the next step to take. And so it felt like a logical progression to me, but I also have always wanted to make music. So it just kind of felt like the right time to do that.
That's super badass. And I'm glad that you got that realization at 21. I'm getting it at 33, nearly 34. So, It's
never too late.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling myself. One of my main influences is a guy called Shackleton, who used to make music on Skull Disco in the dubstep days while he ran Skull Disco. He started producing at 31, and he's one of my favorite producers. So that's what I'm telling myself also. It's never too late. Okay, cool. So you started making music at 21 again, after the sort of first failed remix attempt of Calvin Harris, which I love. What did you start on when you started again, and what was your setup like?
So when I first started, I've been producing for about 5 years, but only like full time for maybe like a year and a half. I kind of just started it, but never really heavily dove into it until the last maybe year and a half, 2 years. So I had a lot of like self-confidence issues to get over before I could get to this point. But when I first started, I downloaded Ableton Standard. I bought it. I didn't buy the Suite version, which I regretted a long time after. But I bought the standard version, and I was just using like a Novation Launch mini key, like MIDI controller.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it. Basically just trying to familiarize myself with like Ableton and the DAW and just like how producing actually works.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's exactly what I've just gone for is Ableton. I got the Suite, and I've ordered the Push 2. I told you just before the interview, it's now stuck in Germany. Fucking Brexit. Okay. So this is really, really good for me. Okay. Let me ask this question again. So how do you approach making a track now? What can you tell me about sitting down with Ableton for the first time in the Push 2? What am I going to experience, and what are some of the things that you think I should be kind of focusing on?
Well, that's a very good question. I actually only recently got a Push 2 myself. So
Great.
So I bought it off my housemate a couple months ago, and it's literally like the best bit of kit. I think it combines like all the best elements of like intuitive producing. It's really hands-on, and I just really love that it's like kind of a keyboard mixed with a drum pad. I think that's my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
So I think the Launchpad will just make producing a lot more intuitive for you. It's very visual. You can even like produce the entire track on the actual Push. Like you don't even need to look at the DAW to do it. I mean, I haven't got to that point yet, but even just like for things as simple as like pressing play, recording, the Push is just and you just plug it in, and you don't have to like mess with any settings. It just comes up straight away.
Yep.
So I think in terms of just like producing intuitively and I think streamlining your workflow, the Push 2 is definitely one of the best bits of kit you could buy. So I think you'll really like it.
Okay, awesome. That's really good to hear. I'm glad. I feel like I made the right choice. So I'm really looking forward to getting it and starting to play with it. The question I wanted to ask you next was, one of the ways that I've seen people producing music within Ableton is one camp of people create a drum rack and everything's in one channel and on one track, versus some other people that have kicks on one channel and then they spread them all out across. You've finished music and you've got music released and a bunch of releases coming up. How do you lay out your drum channels when you're making beats?
Oh, definitely always separate your individual plugin sounds. Because like if you're gonna send your track off for mixing, or even if you're gonna mix it yourself, it's just way easier to like individually mix every sound that you've got.
Okay.
So I mean, even if you start with like a drum, like I mean, intuitively it's easy to just start with a drum rack if that's what you're going to use, and like put all the sounds in a drum rack and make it that way. But you can like separate all the chains from each other. So what that does, so once you separate the chains, it basically creates a new MIDI track for each instrument.
Really? So you can start with start with it on one channel to get the basic idea out, but then you can pop it out so that and they each go on their individual track.
Yeah, exactly. So Ableton makes it so easy.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay, in none of the videos that I've watched have I seen anyone do that. And I'm like having mini panic attacks being like, which is the right way to start producing? And I get that it's all like an experimentation, but I didn't know that. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I think the good thing about the Push as well is like once you've like programmed your drum rack to have like, say, the right kick and the right hats that you want.
Yep.
And then you move to the Push to like create your rhythm. It just makes it so much easier to just have all of the drum rack on the one Push, so you can like hit your kicks, hit your snares, blah, 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 do all of that. But yeah, once you've done all that, it's just so easy to separate the chains, and which allows you to like, once you've finished, you can bounce them all individually. It's just, it's real easy.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's like a huge weight off my mind. I was a bit, not stressing, but like every time I'm watching YouTube videos, I watch people do things one way, then some people do it another. And I'm just like, I don't know what's right. No one's explaining this to me. That's fine. So that's really cool. When you got back into it, what were the main resources that you were looking at to give you A, inspiration, B, learning, and inspiration and learning?
That's a really good question. I think the hardest, as a female producer, I think the hardest thing about producing has been, I think 90% of all of the YouTube tutorials I've come across have been like real blokey and really like bro-y and full of ads as well.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just have, that just does not resonate with me.
Yep.
But I was speaking to my friend, Night Flight. She's a producer from Sydney who lives in the UK.
Yep.
And she actually recommended a fantastic platform to me, which I've been using ever since. She recommended two things. The first one is a website called Groove 3.
Okay.
So you've got to pay to use the subscription, but basically it's like a subscription service that has a whole bunch of different tutorials created by accredited Ableton trainers.
Nice.
So it's basic. Like she sent me some of her favorite ones. There's really good ones on like compression and side chaining, even just like basic things like workflow and setting up your DAW and just like getting used to the DAW. Like, I think paying for that is worth it because you're getting all of the information without any of the like subtext and any of the advertising. It's just straight up, this is the content and what you need to learn.
Awesome. Rather than some blokey asshole trying to make a name for himself as a producer an educator on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then another really good resource she recommended, which I've only just started using in the last month. It's called Syntorial. So it's like it's basically it's like a game basically that teaches you how to use a synthesizer and how to patch a synthesizer.
Wow.
So it's actually so fun as well. So you start out really basic. It teaches you basically like because every synth has like a different number of combination of
oscillators,
characteristics.
Yep.
Yeah. So it teaches you about like oscillators. It teaches you about like cutoff, filtering.
Yep.
Like all the attack and delay and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it just goes through that really slowly with you. And it, I guess to break it down, it like it'll play you like an example, and it will say, okay, now you need to recreate this with the parameters that we've learned. And then so you're basically training your ear to like match the sound that they've given you, if
Holy
that makes sense.
Shit,
I don't know.
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It turns building sound into a game with logical steps and sequences. That's so sweet. It sounds really fun.
It's so sick. Yeah, and I mean, that's paid. I think I've got the demo at the moment. So there's a demo if you want to just like go and try it out for a couple of weeks. But the paid version I think is around $200. And it basically, if you just sit down for like a month or two and play with that, I mean, I've learned a lot already and I've just been using it for a couple of weeks. So
that's amazing.
Highly recommend that.
Yeah, so this is like cutting edge for you. This is like the latest stuff that you're sort of playing with. Do you own any synthesizers of your own now, or are you still using like soft synths and working within the software?
I would love to move to hardware, but for me, it's just a cost thing. Like that's just not within my budget at the moment.
Yep, for sure.
So yeah, and I think as well, like there's a few synths that I really like. Like I really like the 303, and I'd love to buy one day, but I also have a really good plugin that, does all of that for me right now.
Yes.
So I think, down the line, I'd really like to get some gear, but I also I think I'm still figuring out my sound and what I like as a producer. So I think committing to gear now is just a bit premature for me.
Cool. Absolutely. So of the music that I've heard of yours, it's quite high energy, quite ravey, and quite acidy. So what are some of the plugins that you gravitate towards when you make music to get the sound of you?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorites it's called Rave Generator. It's a free plugin, and it basically just has this like massive library of just like ravey stabs. Nice. If you listen to like any 90s hardcore track, I guarantee that stabby sound in there will be in this free plugin.
Yeah.
It's sick. It's really cool. It's really easy to use. I mean, there's a few parameters that are missing that I'd really like to see in like the next update or something, but I think just for what it is, the sounds are worth getting.
Okay.
That's a good one. And I really like Diva as well. It's a UHE plugin. That one I had to pay for. I can't remember how much it cost, but from what I understand, like all the electro producers that I like, that's like a go-to for them. So it's a synthesizer, and it has a lot of more like dark, acidy, squelchy kind of sounds in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really sick.
Very nice. How long did you spend within stock Ableton before you started branching out and using other plugins? Because one of the things that, like, obviously getting into the world of production, there's so much shit out there. And one of the ones that I really want to try is called, oh my God, Serum. That's one that I keep seeing about. Do you use Serum?
I do use Serum, yeah. It took me a while to wrap my head around it, but it's worth it.
Yeah, oh my God. So that's one I really want to get into. But obviously, I don't even know the basics of Ableton yet, so I need to get my head around that. How long did you spend in the basics of Ableton before you started branching out and using other stuff?
I think I'm still finding this now, but I think once you like start getting into a regular pattern of using it, you kind of start to hit certain ceilings with like your understanding of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So like I find that every maybe month I'll sit down and like spend a little bit of time watching tutorials, and then that'll keep me going for a while. And then maybe a month later I'll be like, oh, I'm a bit bored. I feel like I don't know what else to do. And then I'll be like, oh, I need to watch some more tutorials. So I think starting out with Ableton, just getting my head around everything. I'm still doing that now. I'm still wrapping my head around a lot of the concepts, but I'd say maybe like 6 months before I was like, okay, now I'm ready to kind of play with some other sounds.
Okay.
But it's different for every producer. Like I have producer friends that don't use any other plugins. They just use all the stock Ableton plugins.
Wow.
So I think it's just about, preference and also like your understanding of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. No, there's some really good resources in there and some really good things to try, things to practice, and bit of a framework guide for how I should be approaching the learning of the different softwares and stuff like that. How long do you spend on something before? I guess this is a very, how long is a piece of string, but how long do you spend on something before you it reaches a point of diminishing returns and you're just sort of diminishing returns. How long do you spend on something before you just go, right, I'm not working on that anymore?
I think I'm pretty much the opposite. I like start something and in the first like half an hour, I'll know whether or not I'm committed to that. I'll be like, oh, this is a dud. I'm just going to leave it.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like that's a really bad way to work, but that's just what works for me. So I think the longest amount of time I've been working on something is probably like 6 months, but I've definitely left it for periods and come back to it.
Fine. Okay. Do you keep everything or if something's a dud, do you go like, oh, fuck this and just kind of bin it? Because one of the things I am concerned about is storage space and, just keeping shit that's never going to go anywhere,
Well, I would recommend a remedy to that, getting like a desktop hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit more expensive, but I just have that just to back everything up. But yeah, I used to scrap ideas, but now I'm just like, oh, even if I hate it now, maybe in 6 months I'll come back to it and be like, oh, I like that for this. Okay. So I think never scrap anything. I don't think any idea is a bad idea. Yep. I just think that maybe the way I like to think of it is maybe I just don't have the skills yet to turn that into what I want to be able to turn it into, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. You might revisit it and your skill set's progressed enough for you to be like, I can make this into something now. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so don't give up on it. Just get a bigger hard drive and back everything up. That's the key.
Like it. Okay, cool. What percentage of ideas that you start turn into finished ideas?
Oh, at the moment, I'd say probably about 10%.
Okay.
So if I start 10 songs, I reckon I'd finish one of them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bad. I don't know. I don't think I really get past like 25% in something and then scrap it. I'll usually kind of try to see it through until the end if I get that far.
Yeah.
Either that or I'll just leave it for a few months and come back to it later.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I had a question. It's gone from my head. Give me 1 sec. I'll see if I can refigure it out. Okay. And when you've finished a song, what's your process then? Do you immediately start sending it to people? Because you've got label interest, you've got releases coming up. How soon after something's finished, and what's the process for sort of getting it out into the world?
I think I've been really lucky since I've started producing where I think I've had like the opposite problem to a lot of producers, where a lot of producers have finished work and like don't really have anywhere to send it. But I've been feeling the pressure on the other end of it, where people have been approaching me and I just don't have anything to show for it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, a bit stressed. It's a good problem to have, I think. But yeah, I've just been trying to just finish things. That's been the hard. Sorry, what was your question again? I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. I'm sort of losing mine a little bit as well, because I'm getting quite excited by the conversation. So I get a lot of questions like bubbling around in my head at one moment. That's why I got a little bit flustered before. I do apologize.
That's fine. So we're on the same page.
Yeah. So like when I'm asking questions, I'm asking like 8 questions at once, and it just doesn't come out like straight. Let me ask again, and let's just start again. So this is jokes. How soon after finishing a track do you start sending it to people? Is it immediate, or do you keep it to yourself for a while to make sure that it's ready for the world to see?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think with the tracks that I've put out so far, it's mostly just been that I've had like half the track finished and someone's come to me and been like, oh, do you have something for this project? And I've been like, oh, actually, you might like this one thing that I've been working on.
Yep.
And so far I've sent it to them and they've been like, yep, that's perfect. So I've just kind of given myself a deadline and then tried to finish it in that time.
Yep.
Which, I mean, outside of music, that's just how I do like copywriting and news writing, and I just work so much better with a deadline. So I think that workflow works best for me.
Yeah,
and I've
nice.
been lucky so far.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So copywriting and review. What did you say? Copywriting and
I do like music news writing as well.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Who are you writing for at the moment?
I'm writing for music feeds a couple times a week.
Okay, cool. What kind of stuff's that? Like, yeah, what kind of stuff are you writing for?
Oh, it's real broad. It's mostly just like we cover a lot of like metal and pop and like Australian music news. So it's really just like in that realm.
Okay.
Just kind of whatever pops up.
Nice. Are you into metal?
Not really.
Okay.
I used to listen to like a lot of like hardcore and that kind of thing in my angsty teen years, but I never really lent into that.
Club Blink, was that one of the trashy clubs you were going to when you were 18?
No, I went to Hot Damn though. I feel like that was maybe the equivalent.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Club Blink was the one that won for us. I think I went there once or twice, and I was just like even too metal for that. I'm like, this is fucking
You're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I wasn't that into it. Okay, cool. Coming back to production, what is your routine? So what time of day, night do you produce? Generally, how long do you get? Obviously, it's going to be dependent on schedules, and maybe with lockdown, you've had a bit more time. But just what routine for production works for you?
Oh, I wish I had a better routine. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of, because my days are really different every week because I freelance, or my weeks are very different every week. So most of the time it's just kind of whenever I can fit it in.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have a whole day off, usually I'll like go and wake up, go get a coffee, go for a walk, and then try and sit down for like 5 or 6 hours.
Yep.
But I don't spend that whole time producing. Maybe I'll spend half of it producing and half of it like watching YouTube or like, you know, just trying to make sounds, because that's something that I'm still pretty new to.
Yep.
Just making my own sounds. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say in a week, I'd probably spend about 5 to 10 hours producing. I'd like to do a lot more, but
yep.
Also I have my boyfriend and I, he's a graphic designer. Our studios are like crammed into the corner of our bedroom. So it's not really a very creative space right now.
Yeah.
But we're moving house soon, so we'll both have like a bigger studio, which will be nice. So I want to produce more in the future.
Beautiful. Where are you moving to?
We're moving to Roselle, so just across the Anzac Bridge.
Yep. Perfect. And
that'd be nice.
2-bedroom place of your own? What's the pop? What's going to be the setup in the new joint?
Oh yeah, 2-bedroom place. I'm looking forward to having like my decks and my studio set up like close together, and just being able to like, because I have a few old Casio keyboards. I just want to be able to just have them out and do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, cool.
It'll be good.
So, all right, you've got label in. Okay, I need to formulate my next question. I'm definitely flying by the seat of my pants on this one.
You got this.
Yeah, awesome. So, listen, you're making music, which is awesome. I assume you want to get back to gigging as well.
Yeah.
Is that the dream, to be sort of to take this full time? What's the dream? What's the goal for this?
Oh yeah, the dream would be just full time. Like this is my career. Like that's honestly the dream for me. I don't have to work in a cafe. I don't have to like supplement myself with other freelance work. Like I just love. I'd also really love to start a label one day, but I think I want to do that when I've got a bit more production kind of under my belt.
Yeah, absolutely. So just on that, if you were to start a label tomorrow, who are some of the people that you would look to sign? What I'm really trying to get out here is who are the people within the scene right now that you're looking at being like you're one to watch?
That's a good question. I think in Sydney, specifically, there's a producer by the name of Arju. She's just put out she put out like earlier in the year this really hectic, like ravey track with this label called, I think it was Goddess. She put it out with.
Yeah.
But she is fantastic. She DJs a lot of like rave, jungle, garage, that kind of thing.
Very nice.
So would love to see her on the label. DJ Beverly Hills as well. He just creates this like real gnarly, like fast gabba, hardcore influence kind of music.
Oh my God,
so
that's
that would
awesome.
Be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want the label to be like real fast, real chaotic.
Yep.
No all killer, no filler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Heavy. Yeah, definitely not one you play your mum. Like your mum's not going to be into it.
Oh, my mum would hear that and be like, "What? This is music?"
Yeah. Are you into gabba?
I am into gabba. I love gabba.
Holy shit. So yeah, my introduction to gabba was a guy. Do you remember Afterlife Drum and Bass? James, he ran Afterlife Drum and Bass. And yeah, I remember doing an interview with him once for Bondi Beach Radio. And my question was, I'll always remember this. If you want, like, it's peak time in a set and you really want to just like destroy the dance floor, what track do you play? And he said Cunt Face by Nas and Bluton.
Oh yes.
And I was just like,
literally,
and I had no idea what that was. I didn't know about Bloody Fist, and I listened to Cunt Face by Nas and Bluton, and I was like, this is fucking mental. Like, this is crazy. But the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, this song bangs so fucking hard.
NASA Bluton are like insane. I think I've been making like a little bit of hardcore, and I think that's definitely like the reference point for what I've been trying to make. Oh yeah, but it's so it's so undanceable, and that's what I love about it. You know, It's dance music that you really can't dance to, and I love the context of that whole.
Yeah. But what blows me away about those guys is they were making music and they had no fucking idea what they were doing, but they were making some of the most intense shit ever that's still heralded as some of the best shit ever. It's not like it's in like, yes, it's a very niche scene, but like they're world renowned, dude. World renowned in that space. Yeah,
totally. I love that. I just love as well how like location centric a lot of their music was, you know, like they came from Newcastle, and like on the 100% No Soul album, they're like sampling concrete compressors in Newcastle, like that. I fucking love that. That is like such intuitive music production to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Really making use of what's around you.
Yeah, exactly. And just repping where you're from. I love that they did that with like No Shame. It was so cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, some of the like little samples that they'll use, like they were cutting up, like I think there's a breaks, like a 40-minute breaks little bit in one of their releases, and they sampled Danny Minogue, like, and that's just such a random like sample to be using, and like they've pitched it down a bit, and it's called Danny Sucks Puss, and it's just like. It's just crazy how Australian it was, how unique, but how much it blew up within that tiny subgenre. It's fucking magical. Like that, you're right. Totally. They are sort of. They're definitely some. You know, there's a lot to be learned from Bloody Fist Records.
Totally, and I think just like looking at the fact that they were producing like mostly analog as well.
Yes. You know,
exclusively with hardware. Like, I mean, a lot of that. It's hard enough producing that kind of heavily sample-based choppy work on Ableton. That's just a lot of time. I don't know how they did that, just recording that, you know, with their hands. That's crazy.
It's fucking mental.
Yeah. Respect to them.
So
much respect.
Massive, big ups Mark N and the whole Bloody Fist crew, dude. On that, who are some of the people that are inspiring you right now? So what are you listening to at the minute, and where are you drawing a lot of your inspirations from?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, I'm glad that you brought up Bloody Fist because just a lot of that I've been listening to.
Yep.
Their track Intellectual Killer, I've been listening a lot to that as well. That's
Sick.
a classic.
Yeah.
What else have I been listening to? That's a good question. I've been listening to a lot of Human Movement. Eddie, he's a Sydney producer as well.
Okay.
He inspires me. He actually inspires me a lot. He's just released a song with Paul Mack, a Sydney legendary producer.
Oh yeah, man, Itchy and Scratchy. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
Itchy and Scratchy, exactly. So they've just released a track together, which is like this real big room, like rave number, which I love to see. I mean, I love that there's all this rave coming out of Sydney.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah. I've been listening to Joy Orbison's new album as well.
Yep, that mixtape with the chick on the cover smoking, totally East London. Yeah.
It's so like totally East, even just listening to it, totally East London. Like all of the kind of sample work that he's done with all the voices in there. That is the way he's produced that is insane. The production and even just I think like I listened to it, with my Apple earphones and then listen to it again at my computer with my good speakers and just the mixing on it is impeccable.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying Over Mono as well, another London crew.
Yeah, Over Mono's great.
Yeah, they're sick. Like that because that they did like a remix of a Rosalia track called Upperlay.
Okay.
And I love Rosalia. Like I love pop music.
Nice.
And I'm Latina as well, so it was nice to see like, oh, cool. They're like remixing someone in a language that I understand. So that was cool.
Yeah, right. So where's Rosalie from?
She is from Spain. So
Okay.
my family's from Chile, but similar language.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, cool. And what is she well known? Is she kind of like a world renowned name, or has he found like quite a niche person to have remixed?
She is like probably one of the most popular like singers in like the Latin world at the moment.
Okay.
But it's still it's so interesting to me because the Latin market actually brings in more money than the Western world market in terms of pop music.
Yep.
But I just think it's so interesting that the crossover still hasn't really been made from like the Latin world to like our Western world.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like I was thinking about it the other day and she's won a few Grammys for her last album. But if she was to tour Australia, I don't think she would even, she'd play a really small venue like the Oxford Art Factory. Like that's crazy to me.
But in Spain, she'd be like selling out arenas and shit.
Yeah, literally. She'd be playing like Kudos Bank Arena like 5 nights in a row or something. It's crazy.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. Lots and lots of content here. This is really, really good. So what's coming up next for you? Tell us about what kind of releases you've got in the pipeline and what's the plan as sort of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia comes out of lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I'm currently working on an EP, which is like
awesome.
Pretty big for me. I've never worked on anything longer than just one track at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been really fun putting that together for a label in the UK. So yeah, I don't know, just trying to actually wrap my head around creating something kind of longer form has been really fun.
Yep.
And I'm still trying to pick and choose what I want to use for that.
Okay, nice.
But,
have you got finished tracks ready to go, or are you working on them? Like, still, are the tracks still a work in progress?
So I've got one that I think is probably 95% done. Like, I'm just leaving it for now because there's still one bit in it that I'm still a bit iffy about. But I think I've pretty much done that one. Mm-hmm. The second one is I'm currently finishing, and then I still don't really know what I'm going to do for the third one. But yeah, I like to be able to like plan out, I guess, not genres of the sounds that I want to make, but at least just like, okay, I want this track to have this energy and this track to have this energy. So I've just, been trying to like spread that out across the 3 tracks.
Very nice. Okay, cool. Any idea of timelines? Can you give anything away as to, I know it's obviously a work in progress, so there's nothing set in the diary, but obviously when do you think people are going to be able to see and find that?
That'll be first quarter next year, hopefully.
Okay.
So it'll hopefully be like by around April.
Okay.
That'd be nice.
Very, very nice. Cool. And last thing I want to touch on, you did a boiler room recently, which is fucking badass. You know, that's the fucking dream, dude. So, how did how did that come about? Yeah. Tell us about that. How did that happen?
So I have known about like the Finely Tuned crew for a while, and maybe like a month before I got the call up for the Boiler Room. I did a show with them so they've been doing a bunch of parties at the Civic Underground in the city, called Paradise Club. And so I DJ'd there with Slam and Cassettes for Kids.
Very nice.
And yeah, I had so much fun. That was like one of my favorite shows ever, because that was like, I think my first proper club gig back after the first lockdown. So that was a really good time to just kind of play all the songs I've been stockpiling for months.
Yep.
And then about a month after that, I got a call from Sebastian, who said, hey, we're doing this thing at the Ivy every week, and we're going to launch it with a Boiler Room, and I just want to let you know that I've put your name down for it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty huge. And I kind of thought nothing of it. I was like, oh, whatever, I'm like pretty small time, so I'll just try not to get my hopes up.
Yep.
And then he called me a few days later, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, you're locked in.
Fuck yeah.
It's going to be in like 2 weeks. And this is kind of what the vibe is. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I have 2 weeks to put together this set. Sick.
Yep.
So yeah, and then it just kind of came about. And then I found out a few days before that I was going to be playing before DJ Boring, which was crazy, like actually insane. And yeah, that was kind of how it all came about. I was really stoked.
Yeah, that was
surprised.
Awesome. And I think just in you said it came at just about the right time as well. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think I was kind of at a point, I just felt like stagnant, COVID had kind of like put everything to a halt. And I'd also just finished wrapping up everything with Purple Sneakers. So I'd like stopped doing radio, and I'd stopped doing the blog. And I was just kind of like trying to figure out what to do next, because that was a really big part of my like identity for so long.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I really want to do more DJing, but just not really getting the opportunities that I wanted to be getting. And then that opportunity came along. So yeah, good things come to those who wait, I think.
Fuck yeah. And it's well, listen, Caitlin, it's been really nice talking to you. I've learned actually a fuckload. There's been some great chats in here. I'm glad to find another Bloody Fist fan as well. That's gangster. Yes. And so really glad. Looking forward to seeing what comes from you and the whole Sydney crew next, because obviously coming from Sydney, I've got a lot of love in my heart for people pushing the bass and electronic music scene forward over there. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us. All the links to all this stuff are going to be down in the description below, everybody, to find Caitlin and all her work. Make sure you check her out. Look out for her upcoming releases. Ravey, upbeat, fun times ahead. Great stuff. Caitlin, Medcalf, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with you.
Beautiful. Hello, legend. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. If you'd like that, I got a ton more of these interviews being uploaded constantly on the YouTube page. And I do a weekly mix on Mixcloud every Saturday. So if you can subscribe, like, comment, that helps out loads with the algorithm. And if you follow me everywhere and you like the sound of what's going on here, let me know. I'm always open to hearing from people. This is very new. I'm figuring it out as I go along. But yeah, there's tons more. Check out the other interviews. Follow me. Listen. Jump onto the live stream. Say hi. I'm a friendly dude, and I really appreciate you watching. So thank you so much. You're a fucking legend. Love ya. Peace. Bye.